Heyo, welcome to the QB School. I am JT O'Sullivan, fired up for the QB School show. Got all sorts of good stuff to talk about today. As always, let me know I sound all right. Hit me with your favorite emoji. Check in. Let me know where you're coming in from. Again, we got all sorts of content. I mean, where to go? We got so many things to talk about from the draft. We got stuff to talk about moving forward. Who's going to make the biggest impact? How fast are they going to be coming in? All sorts of good stuff. I am fired up for this. We're going to take a shot at kind of walk our way through the back end of the draft too. All sorts of question marks. And we will absolutely talk about this as we get going. Again, I mean, it's one of those things where it's kind of, I'm personally sad to see the draft go just because it was fun to do the content stuff. But shoot, we might as well jump right into 2021. I'll probably get into that this week. Maybe a little Trevor Lawrence. Michael, what's going on? I'm fired up. Thank you for signing up for the membership. Very cool. Brock in the house, always strong with the emoji game. Again, you know, there's it's kind of like a little, I don't know, y'all, you know, let me know how you feel, but I almost feel like I am like in a draft kind of hangover. You know, you get excited about it. There's obviously nothing else going on sports-wise that you're kind of at this kind of peak that you have something to watch, and all of a sudden it's come and it's gone. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch a second of anything beyond the first round, so I'm going to kind of walk through this as we walk through it together. I am drinking this is a CBC, Coronado Brewing Company, and this is a, gosh, what is it called? Weekend Vibes IPA. Very good. Buddy actually brought him over when we had like I'm not sure how everybody's dealing with this quarantine, especially if you have kids. We have 3 boys, all under 10, and friends drove by, brought their minivan, and we had a water gun fight out on the front yard, and to say thanks, they brought this. And let me just tell you, you know, this, I'm sure this makes sense, but this is, I thought it was a good story afterwards. I didn't think of it. The guy who we were having the water polo fight, Jesse Smith, is a Olympian water polo player. So we got him and me throwing water balloons at each other. He plays in the hole. He's just this massive human being. But he's like, you're pretty good at this water balloon thing. I'm like, yeah, I've thrown stuff for a while. I can put it 20 feet through a window of a car. So it was fun though. It was good times. Just anything to kind of make the day special for the kids and break up stuff. So I'm sure, hopefully, y'all are doing all right. In that same regard, let me sanitize or continue to model the behavior that we're trying to promote here. Yeah, Weekend Vibes is the name of it. It's pretty good. I'm a big fan of it. Always trying to support local out here, although Coronado Brewing Company is not that local anymore. And then everybody obviously knows all the microbrew stuff. I'm in San Diego, and San Diego just feel like we've just got every different type of brewery out here. But enough from there. This can go any different way we want to go. Brock, absolutely. I have been watching The Last Dance. I make my 10-year-old watch it. You know, he's asking me all these questions about Dennis Rodman that I wasn't ready for. But I mean, that's literally, not literally, that is my childhood. You know, I grew up in the 90s and, you know, was in high school, and those teams were just surreal. And it is fun to see the sneak peek kind of behind it. I always feel like, you know, like any story, it's going to be manipulated from a certain vantage point. But so far, I think they're doing a nice job. I think it's, you know, really impressive how they kind of mix timelines, and go between, you know, that last season, the final day of The Last Dance, and then kind of the story and the evolution of the Bulls. You know, I also remember, you know, I was in LA in the 80s as a real youngster, and I remember the Lakers, I remember the Pistons, the Bad Boys, and got a chance to play in Detroit. So it's fun to connect some of those dots for those guys and what that image of was like back in the day. I mean, I couldn't imagine if someone fouled like that nowadays. You know, you just see those playoff fouls where guys just get slammed to the ground and not even look twice. You know, the game has changed so much without the hand check. that for the better, I would probably say. But it was it's still fun to watch on so many different levels. It really is fun. I always heard stories when I was in the league. Quite a bit of like gambling goes on, especially on planes, but like, it's not really NBA money. And what I mean by that is like those guys are on a different stratosphere now. It might not have been quite the same then, but it was getting towards that for the top tier guys. And I had always heard that those Bull planes and Jordan specifically and a handful of guys in the association got after it on the planes as far as gambling. And so I remember, this is a good story. It's so funny how this thing, I like talk to myself and I take myself down paths that I think are funny. Hopefully you all enjoy. But let me see if I can turn the mic up before I get into this. Let me know if the mic sounds any bit better. So gambling on planes, it's one of those things that when I first got in the league, right in the early 2000s, they were still given, like you could get just about any pill you wanted on the plane. You could have alcoholic beverages on the plane. It was before any of the issues with the kind of like guys driving drunk after trips or anything. I feel like a baseball player got in a DUI after a trip once, and that kind of squashed that. But a plane home after an away game win in the NFL is a party. And there's gambling on a loss on the way out to a game, on the way back to a game. There's no doubt about it. My first year in New Orleans, I want to say it was the first plane trip. That's how it resonates with me. There was a fullback that I used to call T. Smith, Terrell Smith. And he was a bulldozer of a fullback for Deuce McAllister. And he was a good dude. I want to say he was like an Arizona State guy. He's a great dude. But you have to be crazy to be in the NFL at any level. You have to be legit bonkers to be a fullback in the NFL. You still do. It's just, it's crazy, the collisions that go on for a fullback at any level. But in the NFL, it's a legitimate car accident every single time. Well, T. Smith, our fullback in New Orleans, early in my career, he was coming home from a plane trip and he was gambling. And at this point, I didn't even know what they were playing, like dice, craps, whatever. It doesn't, I was the rookie on many different levels, naive on many different levels. He lost his entire game check. They bet game checks. And so, I remember being like, I'm not great at math, but I can divide 16. And it's like, I just remember being kind of like in my own world, like, this can't be real. Like, that didn't really happen. Like, you're not really going to pay him. And they're like, yeah, hell yeah, you're going to pay him. And it was, I never saw another game check type of money get lost around me, at least when I was like around the pile of guys gambling. But after that, I was nervous every single time people started wanting to play money for whatever it was. And I wasn't good enough at any of it to know that I want no piece of these guys when they start rolling dice or doing anything, playing spades. Want nothing to do with that. But it was legitimate. Rookie, you lost your game check, T? What? And I could only imagine like throwing that into the pot, like with everybody's different level, no matter what it is. It's still a lot. But like, man, those teams were crazy. That New Orleans team was crazy. Hey-o. Look at that, man. I'm so excited to see all the logos start changing. We got SD Islander in the house. Henry in the house. I know Henry. Des Patman heading to the Colts. The high school I coach at, Patrick Henry in San Diego, actually had two guys. One go as an unrestricted free agent, and another, Desmond, get drafted. But both of them end up at the Colts. So pretty cool. Pretty amazing, actually, on many different levels. Pretty cool. Jeff Young, appreciate the subscription. All sorts of good stuff. The fun thing about this stuff for me is that, honestly, we can take this anywhere y'all want to go. Now, I'm obviously going to tailor it to the members because it's designed for that, with as far as the badges and the emojis and stuff like that. But this is really, I have no set agenda. I like to try to see where this thing can go. Obviously, I want to talk probably a little bit about the draft. Obviously we did the live stream after the draft, which kind of captured the raw emotion of kind of what was going on, mostly with the love trade and pick from the Packers. But the second kind of thing was just, the second and third day, that's the real draft. I feel like so much of it is that round one gets all the attention, rightfully so. Those are life-changing picks. But the rest of them is really the meat and potatoes of how you sustain and build an organization. And so it's going to be fun to kind of unpack those things as far as what it looks like quarterback-wise, see how far off I was on a bunch of different levels. All right, so let me see if I can do this. Okay, so I haven't really even looked. Probably many of y'all have probably already know this better than I do, but I'm going to try to see if I created a different screen for me to go over and just kind of quickly get a snapshot of what's going on with the other rounds. All right, so hopefully this thing turns over and looks correct to y'all. Might be a little small depending on what level you guys are on. But for me, the Jalen Hurts thing we need to talk about. The Jacob Eason we need to talk about. The James Morgan, I haven't watched one snap of him. So I don't know anything about him. Never seen him play. Obviously, Adam likes him in New York. It's a little bit of a weird situation with Sam Darnold. Jake Fromm, interesting pick from Buffalo. Jake, I wanted to watch from Oregon State and just didn't have any access to film of Oregon State of him playing. Cole McDonald did a video on. That's an interesting pick with the Titans. I don't know anything about DiNucci. I don't know anything about Stevens. And then Nate Stanley, I'm obviously a big fan of. And then, the elephant in the room for this channel is just Anthony Gordon not getting picked. So there's a bunch of different ways here that we can try to get through some of this. For me, let's start with the Jalen Hurts thing in Philadelphia. So Jalen Hurts to Philadelphia, to me, is an interesting kind of pick on a bunch of different levels. So I think that there is, the obvious issue right out the gate that Carson Wentz has proven that he cannot make it through many games back to back to back to back for whatever reason, whether it's the play style, his makeup, whatever it is, bad luck. There's a bunch of different variables that go into it. So it's in their best interest to have a young, long-term solution to when that doesn't happen. Now, the more interesting thing for me is not only, yes, he could be a very serviceable backup, but he's also got this element of change-up. What are they going to do when he comes on the field? Obviously, New Orleans is onto something with the Taysom Hill package in New Orleans. And if you're going to have a backup and potentially two backups, why not have a guy who can also create a package around so that it's not just this one-off backup, like, if the wheels come off or if he gets hurt, we'll throw him out there. No, let's have this guy. He's part of the roster. I always wanted that as a backup. I would have loved. Now, I wasn't anywhere near the athletes that these guys are. But just a package to create different stretches on the defense. I really do think two quarterback formations, two quarterback personnel groups have the potential to at least be, like something teams have to prepare for. It is something that I think is a differentiator if you have a guy who is that athletic, that dynamic, that he can come on and make plays like that. Now, I'm not sure if that's how they're going to use him, but I think that there's at least the potential for that. The next one, Jacob Eason. So I'm a huge Phillip Rivers fan, multiple levels. Great dude, outstanding, human being, great quarterback, in my opinion, Hall of Fame quarterback. Obviously, awkward motion, always has been, but is just a fantastic dude and great guy to be around and learn from, whether you're his peer, whether you're his elder, whether you're, a young guy, whether you're his coach, whether you're his coordinator, head coach. He is that type of human being. And so really fortunate for Jacob Eason to go in there and have someone like Phillip Rivers to look up for, even if it's just for a year. Now, do I think he's anywhere near being able to play? And is he anything like Phillip? Phillip has unbelievable anticipation, like surreal anticipation. He's also got great touch. Now, does he make some decisions, when he feels like he's got to make a play that put his team kind of in harm's way sometimes? Absolutely. But I've never knocked him as much as that. I always felt like the majority of those times he was making risky throws like that, it was either built into the Norv Turner system, or he felt like he had to make a play to get his team back in it. It didn't work, and it just snowballed from there. So I think Jacob Eason fell into a great spot. I'm never surprised that those type of picks happen, just because so many organizations are tethered to the prototypical what a quarterback looks like. Big, tall, strong, white dude. And that's just the straight up truth. And so the idea that you're surprised that a guy who's a monster and has a cannon, goes before the guy that he beat out, to me is just a little bit naive. And that's just the reality of the, history of the league. They're looking for a prototypical guy. Yes, things might be changing a little bit. There might be a little evolution. You might see smaller guys, more dual threat guys, more athletic guys, but the history of the league is big, strong, tall dudes who look a certain way. And so you can never be surprised that they come off the board probably earlier than what their film says that they should, or what their history, their college trajectory has shown. And so, I think he's really fortunate to end up at Indianapolis. From there, James Morgan to the Jets, know nothing about him. Jake Fromm to Buffalo, for me, is it's an interesting pick on a few different levels. I think Buffalo is a really tough place to play quarterback. And I'm not talking about anything to do with the organization. I'm just talking about the weather. You got to be a dude who can rip it. I've been there less than 5 times. But I can't tell you I was ever there and felt like, oh, this is a day where I could pass for 400 yards. It was like, this is a day that I'm going to hand the ball off 40 times because it's howling. It's ridiculous cold. It's like slicing me cold. And that would be August, November, December. It was never nice. And I'm not trying to bash you if you live there. I'm sure it's nice every once in a while. But as far as spinning a football, you got to be a dude who can rip it. And I'm just not sure the fit of that, for me, is long-term. It doesn't align with what I think of when I think of Buffalo Bill quarterbacks. Now, Hope's probably there spinning the ball already and he'll be ready to go. But it was a strange thing for me. Cole McDonald to the Titans. Cole McDonald to the Titans, for me, he kind of looks like Tannehill, big, strong, athletic guy. I mean, it's a similar, I think a lot of coaches and organizations have the mental model of what a quarterback should look like. What's our starter look like? Well, this guy looks like our starter. I bet he can do a lot of the same things. Let's just get this guy. And it's a simple jump. It's an easy bridge to what otherwise is like, as opposed to going out and getting a small lefty. This guy, he's obviously got some, in my opinion, throwing fundamental issues. But he's a big, strong, athletic guy. Ryan Tannehill probably had some fundamental throwing issues coming out of college too, and he had an unbelievable second half of this year. From there, the last one I want to talk about before we dive into kind of a more back and forth is Nate Stanley. Nate going to Minnesota is a really great fit, I think. I'm not necessarily a massive Gary Kubiak fan, but I do think in the same vein that Cole McDonald looks like Ryan Tannehill as far as the build-up, the mechanics, the body type. I think Nate Stanley has some, I'm not sure if he would like this, but he's got some Kirk Cousins, vibe about him, whether it's, decision-making, whether it's, pocket presence. There is an element of, I think Kirk has this like polished, make some throws that really are kind of like, wow, this guy is, obviously he's gotten paid multiple times, right? I honestly think that's an interesting comparable I hadn't thought about before the draft, that I could see the alignment, again, of what the starter looks like to what the backup looks like. That's why coming from, maybe I'm just slanted because I didn't look like any starters. So I'm always hypersensitive to guys, to organizations that get their backup to look like the starter, just because there is this kind of mental model that's an easy association. But I think that the Vikings and Zim it's a great organization to be part of if you're Nate Stanley going there to make a team. Now, the final thing I want to talk about, Anthony Gordon not being drafted, a guy that I probably thought should be drafted. Again, and this is unfortunate, and this is just the way that the league has operated and kind of still continues to operate is there is a stigma tethered to the air raid. There just is. In my opinion, that's the reality of it. whether guys in the league think that it is a gimmick, whether they think that the stats are inflated, whether they think that it's not transferable to the league. And I will be honest with you, from watching the film to not being an air raid guy, I do think that there are elements of the raid, and what I mean by that is more the quarterback footwork, so much so that the quarterback footwork isn't tethered all the time to the timing of the routes. So what I mean by that is in the league, the vast majority of teams are going to have a specific drop for a specific route. And you take a hitch and you let that thing rip if it's the right look. Where in the raid, I feel like there's a lot more green grass, a lot of read the wide receiver, a lot more it feels like you're waiting, and it just doesn't look like it translates to the league. And I'm not sure that that's right, wrong, or indifferent. But I can tell you that I've been around enough coaches, players, coordinators who say similar things that you just can't, it doesn't translate as far as you can say, yes, he's very accurate. Yes, he's got a quick release, but he's a system guy. Now, I know that people can make the argument that any quarterback is a system guy. And to a certain regard, that's true. But there is still this stigma for whatever reason. And I'm not sure that it's totally fair, to be honest with you, the more and more I learn about the air raid. But as far as this inflation of production. And so, I hope he lands where, in Seattle, where they give him an opportunity to do that. I really do think, and I'll be honest, this is probably counterintuitive to what many people think, but this idea being that it's better to be it doesn't feel better on draft day. Okay? Wrap your mind around this for me for a second. It doesn't feel better on draft day to not get drafted. But it's better to not get drafted than be a 7th round draft pick. It is. Why? Because if you're in high regard, unrestricted, undrafted free agent, you're going to get money immediately. They're going to pay you a signing bonus immediately. You get to choose where you go. That's the best part. You get to pick. If you have 3 or 4 spots that want you, where's the best spot for me to make the team? Where's a spot that has given undrafted guys a chance? How many undrafted guys did you have on your team last year? What's the quarterback coach's, relationship? Did they draft someone last year? Are they building someone for the future? What's their starter look like? Is he mid-career? Is he tail end? Is he a young guy? You get to pick and choose, which is a huge advantage. It really is. It's a huge advantage. I think the line is that 6-7 round. I think you can make the argument that the 6th round is not that great. But coming from a 6th round guy, I do feel like you get a little bit more of an opportunity if you're a drafted guy, just because it's in the best interest of the organization to see you succeed. But the choice, really the freedom to choose what organization. Now, if you have choices, not everyone has choices. If you don't have a choice and only one team calls and they say, here's $50 and a plane ticket, then yeah, that's not great. But if you have multiple teams, it's better to not get drafted than be in the 7th round. Let me know if you disagree. All right, hit me with questions. See where this thing goes. We got 130 of our closest friends in here tonight. Wesley, what's going on? Brian in the house. I know, Jameis Winston. So Jameis Winston is officially in New Orleans. Y'all let me know. I haven't watched a second of anything. Just a thought. From Shane, let me see. Just a thought. You ever thought about continuing the QB analysis series, but with old school guys? I would love to do old school guys. The problem is the video sucks, and it's not in HD. It's grainy, and it's even worse when I have to render it like 3 times to put it on YouTube. Plus, I can't get access to all 22. That's the main reason why. But I would love to do that. I might do like one-offs, kind of like the Peyton Manning one. If you all like the Peyton Manning one. It was fun for me to do, but that was still all 22. So I might do some more stuff like that. I know. The Jordan Love stuff, it still is. It's a little bit low-hanging fruit. But I don't know. I'm still struggling with it. I still don't. Y'all let me know. Has Aaron said something? Has Aaron made any sort of comment? The last thing I heard is they hadn't even talked to the head coach or the GM. That's... I don't think you have to be like a relationship expert to know that that's probably not a great sign. Nick, what's your favorite non-QB pick? or maybe the most impactful non-QB. I'll tell you what, now, I'm coming from a guy who I enjoy the analytic element of the game, and I don't necessarily, dive headfirst into that stuff, but I do understand like positional value, for lack of a better phrase. So I'm always fascinated when a running back gets taken in the first round. And I love, if you all watch these videos on this channel, especially the LSU videos, you probably know that I really, really love Edwards-Helaire. Like that dude is dynamic. I mean, he's a special cat. Now, it was funny to go back and watch 2018 LSU for this video that came out today with Joe Burrow and see that he wasn't even out there all the time, which is mind-boggling to me. I don't even know who 4 was last year on LSU. But he was one of those picks, last pick of the first round, that just kind of was like, man, did Kansas City actually just get better again? It's tough. Crazy. But man, running backs, it's a whole nother conversation. It's had such a dime a dozen for so many guys. All right, what's up, Brian? What do you got? What are the traits that a team looks for in a good backup quarterback? Is it the same as what you'd think as for in a starter, or is there a subtle difference in what you look for? It's a good question. I really think it depends. I do. I think it depends on the starter. If the starter is a well-established guy, I think they absolutely look for a more, not necessarily, they want the best player that they can possibly get, because you're literally one snap away from changing the organization. But you can't be a nightmare. You've got to be a good team guy. You've got to understand your role, I think, is more than anything else. And that doesn't change with the starter, the backup, anybody on the organization. Everybody has to have everybody wants to be their absolute best, but understand that there's a role. And once that role is defined, then you've got to go all in with that. And as a backup quarterback, you got to wrap your mind around that. Even though it might suck not to play, you still understand that you're an integral part of the franchise. You probably will get an opportunity to make an impact during the season, and you've got to be a professional and be ready to go. But so I think it's not necessarily like a one-layer answer. It depends on the starter, it depends on the organization, it depends on the goals of the organization. Not everybody, this might be a newsflash to some people, but not every organization is really trying to win the Super Bowl. They're just not. Now, if they go out and start 9-0, are they? Yeah. But you can tell by how they spend their money, where they are on the process of who their coach is, building an organization, who's really near that Super Bowl level and who's not. And so I think it depends on all those things. Brian. See what we got. What are these quarterbacks doing right now? Learning how to be a pro, learning the offense? That's a great question. It's my understanding is that position groups are meeting every single day. And so I know that there are, rules as far as what it looks like from an NFLPA, and I don't know off the top of my head what that looks like, whether it's like 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day of work that they can do. But whatever they're doing, I'm telling you, they're doing installations, they're learning, they're doing their review of 2019. The offseason work for a quarterback, it really depends on where you are in the kind of arc of your career. But if you're going back to a team that you played on the year before and it's the same coaching staff, you really do a deep dive where you essentially watch every single pass play from the previous year. And you do it by kind of cut-ups of concepts. And so you would install the concept. So let's just say, like this Wednesday, I'm going to put out a video on spacing, which is a concept. We would watch, if I was your quarterback, if I was this group's quarterback coach or offensive coordinator, we would go in a room, we would install spacing, we would talk about it, we'd ask questions about it, we'd talk about our familiarity with it, what the read is, versed on every single possible look we could possibly get. And then we would watch every cut up of it from the previous year. And then if we weren't very good at it, we'd watch a team that was actually really good at it and the way that we wanted to get better and emulate. So that's what they're doing. Yeah. Cheers. Appreciate the ST Islander in the house. Bruh, for real. ST Islander will be happy to know that we had a high school meeting today. So it's everybody is still adjusting to what the Zoom landscape looks like and what those installations look like, what the process for learning looks like, because not everybody learns at the same pace necessarily under the best kind of situation for what that looks like in your own learning environment. And so all those things need to be put into consideration, especially, quarterbacks are usually, competitive dudes. They want all the information possible and will do everything they possibly can to learn it. But again, I don't know about you all, but I've had many tutors in my life, and let's talk position coaches, academic tutors. I'll be the first to tell you, when I, was taking advanced quantitative analysis, like, I needed a tutor, no doubt about it. And the tutor is a peer of mine, but like, there is an element of being able to collaborate, work with people that pushes your understanding a little bit better. And that's not available right now. And I think it's going to hinder, obviously, a lot of people, but at the same time, there is no excuse. There are so many different ways to learn and be immersed in the material that I think most guys will come out of this, pretty good. And I think it might actually reevaluate how we do off season on all levels. I think that many coaches would probably cringe with me saying this, but we could probably do less and be fine, is the reality of it. Wesley coming in hot with the O-line question. O-line school, I like it. Let me see. Let me think about that. For me, in leadership skills, I know that I put it out there that I would do more leadership videos. I need to do a leadership video, at least a handful this offseason. But I'm not sure that there is a difference, Wesley, between what leadership skill do you look for in O-line and what leadership skill we promote across the board. Baker, appreciate it. Very cool. I appreciate being your favorite YouTube channel. I really do. It's very cool. It's fun for the interaction with this stuff, the support, different ways to do it. It means a lot to me, so thank you. I appreciate it. As far as the leadership skills, Wesley, there really doesn't matter what position you play. For me, leadership and the process of leadership, I'm not going to go off on a tangent of it right now because I want to save it for the video. But as someone who's a trained, leadership practitioner, there's an element of understanding the process, what that looks like as far as, for me, the process of influencing and or mobilizing a group of people towards some sort of shared goal. And so for the O-line, it might be different than it would be for, the linebackers or the kickers or the specialists. But at the end of the day, you're part of a collective, part of a team that really share the same goal. And whether that's winning, having a great experience, getting better, all the things that whatever you determine to value and to prioritize, that capacity to influence and elevate and mobilize a group of people, specifically a small group if it's the offensive line, or a large group if it's a team, or a program, or a community, or an organization, or wherever you work, all those things, those skills are really pretty similar across the board. And so once you have a better understanding of what that looks like, what it takes to influence and mobilize a group of people to do that in their best, like with their best foot forward, not just, hey, let's go get that dub, like, thanks. Or like, it'd be better if you like caught the ball, or like, it'd be better if you didn't get beat or get beat slower. Stuff like that to me is kind of like, it's not clownish, but it's like, it's the bottom tier. And or the next tier is like, hey, I lead by example. And people who know me know that that's like one of my biggest pet peeves in the world. I lead by example. Yes, that is definitely an element of leadership. If you want to influence a group of people, you absolutely need to lead by example. That's like the barrier to entry. That is the first step. But from there, how do you motivate? How do you mobilize a group? And it gets even more complicated when it's bigger than the O-line. Like the O-line is just 5 guys, maybe 8 guys, maybe 10 guys, maybe 15 if you're in college and coach O-line. But how do you mobilize a unit? How do you mobilize a company? How do you mobilize a community? How do you influence at that level? Those are the things that I always loved about leadership that I'm excited to explore with this channel at some point. But those are more, a little bit deeper dives than like, how do you read spacing? Dave, you could have just asked. You didn't have to check Wikipedia. I didn't know it was 15, though. I honestly forgot count. Spellman, you missed everything, man. You guys got to get speakers. I actually got new headphones. I'm not even going to put them out. I got really excited about my headphones. My headphones died. It was a very sad day for me to only go. I've been going. I actually got mad. And my brother helps me with this technical channel, with the technical ability of this channel. And I was getting pissed at him about the audio, obviously, because a lot of people complain about it. Not that it's his fault. I obviously messed it up. But then I couldn't hear in my headphones. And I was doing all these audio checks, and come to find out, I was convinced that something was wrong, because the audio was really jacked for like a week with the videos, and now it's still low, but like I'm working towards a better level. But then I couldn't hear in my right headphone ear, and I was doing all these different tests, and he was like, hey, hey, your headphones are jacked. Like, that's it. That's the only answer, because everything was working except for that. But I had bought these nice headphones. Sure as hell, the headphones were the issue. Got new headphones, worked perfectly. And like the little things in life, like who knew that hearing at the left and the right ear with closed headphones was so nice, but it is nice. Fire, Spellman. Fire. I got a... Shane, you trying to tease me with the Kingsbury stories. I actually have a handful of good Kingsbury stories. We were only together for like a training camp. I feel like he got cut after training camp. Cliff, great dude. I tell people all the time, like, Cliff, great dude. Legitimate great dude. Like, contagious, nice, definitely fun guy to be around. All sorts of good stuff. We had a good time in Bourbon Street together, but homeboy threw change-ups. Like, there's no other way around it. I mean, it wasn't coming out. It was coming out like batting practice. And it was, there's a level of like, at some point you got to drive a throw. And so I have no problem joking in that same regard. I probably threw change-ups compared to most guys too. But his pad is pretty nice. That was pretty crazy. I'm still recovering from that. People making fun of it. But your money goes far in the desert. You just got to live in the desert. I should see if we can get... I need to start thinking about getting guests on here. Now that I'm spending so much time with Zoom, I could probably get like a live stream guest. Surprise y'all with someone. That'd be funny. I say the change-up thing all the time, Brian. Like, I mean, now, granted, not everybody throws change-ups. Like, but I mean, like, like, it's not just like, oh, the guy throws it soft. Like, like my 6-year-old doesn't throw it that hard. But like everything is smooth. Like, like Cliff. Like you would imagine, like, cool Cliff. Like it's gonna look good. It's gonna look smooth, and then all of a sudden it's like. I always wanted to warm up with him because it felt so easy, as opposed to like, I think the dude at the time was like Aaron Brooks, who would just throw like medicine balls at me, just like catching a TV. So yeah, it's a lot easier to throw with a nice soft touch. Oh, Michael, that's a good question. I can answer that easy. Difference between 200 and 300 jet slide and 2 to 3 jet slide. The hundreds are 3-step. That's it. So like it would tell the offensive line to short pass set, and they could potentially cut. They got to be aggressive to get hands down. And 2 to 3 jet slide jet in West Coast world is more like legit pass pro, where it's not a quick set. It's like a 5 to 7-step drop. So that was easy. I love easy ones. LOL. Jordan, no. That's an easy one. Spellman, I have no idea how Cliff got that job. Well, that's not true. How did Cliff get an NFL locker room to buy in when he just got fired from a college job? So the answer to that is this channel, like quarterbacks. Like that's why. Baker Mayfield is why. Patrick Mahomes is why. It's because the quarterback is such a premium that an NFL franchise, now granted, not necessarily a top echelon franchise, but an NFL franchise, there's only 32, would take a flyer on a young coach. Now, obviously, there's a trend moving towards young coaches, specifically with quarterback pedigree in their background. And Cliff has that with Baker Mayfield, with Patrick Mahomes. That's it. That's why. And so, yeah, it's crazy to go from fired at Texas Tech to USC coordinator to NFL head coach. Like it's legit. It's bananas. Michael, see, you get a membership and you get all these questions answered all in one live stream. What does it mean when a guard slaps the arm of a center right before the snap? That means that the guard was looking at the quarterback in the shotgun snap and that he gave the signal that he's ready for the ball. That's it. Because some centers don't like to have their head between their legs because they feel like they're missing something, like they can't see the defense shift. So like a lot of defenses, when the center puts his head down, like he's ready to go, and he puts his head down to look. When they do that, that's a cue for the defense to stem. So instead of the center putting his head between his legs, the guard will look back. Quarterback lifts the knee or does the hand or whatever. Then he hits the center. Now we're ready to go. That's it. And we're all over the place tonight. What else we got? Give me some good questions. We got 167 people in the chat right now. You guys are always kind of surprising me with the people that show up to this thing. So I appreciate y'all hanging out. It's fun for me. It's definitely a nice little break, especially with the craziness going on, to just get kind of take a deep breath, talk ball, reminisce a little bit, project a little bit, in that form of, my favorite Maisha, we got, I gotta get you the discount or something. I appreciate it, the support for the channel. Good to see a friendly face in Omar today at the team meeting. Fired up for him. Fired up for the Patrick Henry Patriots. It's gonna be pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie, we're gonna be pretty good on offense, I hope. On the NFL.com, they grade each player that's up for the draft. They use a scale from 5.0 to 8.0. Do you usually agree with the grade? I mean, yes and no is the best way that I can say that. They have a little bit better of a way to do it. For people who are into analysis when it comes to that, they're going to aggregate scores from different services. So there are a bunch of different college and pro services that rank players. So when you see a ranking, whether it's a star ranking in high school or a kind of NFL grade ranking in the league or for guys coming out of college, if it's a comprehensive aggregated score, meaning that they've taken multiple scouts and multiple platforms and averaged it in, I think it's a much better grade. And so many NFL teams take aggregate scores of their area scouts, regional scouts, college scouts, professional scouts, personnel people. Every position coach will grade every single available player in that draft. Now, an offensive line coach is not going to grade every eligible offensive line, but they narrow it down to, combine plus probably 20 for those type of positions. And so for me, it's been always interesting to see how not every team does that type of grading. I think that's the overarching norm, and I think anything below 5 is an ungradable, an undraftable type grade. And so, it makes sense as far as I think an 8 is like a Hall of Famer, there's all the way down to like a, everyday player, to a starter, to a potential starter, to a career backup, to a, camp guy, to a shouldn't be invited. And so it's a way to do it. I always think it's more interesting to find out about the teams and organizations that have their own way to do it. I don't know that much about the New England grading process, but I've always heard that they have more of a fit-oriented grading process. So not just like, hey, this guy's a potential Hall of Famer, or hey, this guy's looks like he's going to project to be an NFL starter, to he would start for us in 3 years. How would he fit with our team? Understanding the variable of what the team looks like right now, which is a little bit better in my opinion grade because it's a little bit more realistic to the actual landscape and snapshot of what that organization looks like. It's not necessarily like, this dude would be successful on any team. Like, you know, I'm not sure how relevant that is. You know, that makes sense when we're talking in the first round as far as like get the best available. But after that, you know, there's an element of fit, organizational, you know, values, all those things that I think are important on a number of different levels. And so I always like teams, and I think most teams have evolved to this, you know, without being in the draft room or war room or whatever, that they have their own unique grading process, kind of like colleges. You know, for a lot of, you know, if you're watching this live stream and you have a kid, or you are a student in high school, and you look around and you see all these stars or these non-stars or these 0 stars or 5 stars or 4 stars or 3-star composite, like whatever, that doesn't mean it means nothing. 0. Now, does it make you feel better? Like if you have a couple stars? Yeah, probably. But in reality, it means 0. Just like it doesn't mean anything if you get drafted in the 7th round or if you're an undrafted free agent. All that matters is what you do with that opportunity. Now, you need an opportunity, no doubt about it. But even if you don't get an offer in high school, you can go to community college. You can continue to play. There's an element of attrition in football that you just need to keep playing. You know, I'm a guy who no scholarship offers out of high school, took 2 trips, 2 official visit trips, got offered no scholarship opportunities, went to a Division II school that didn't give out scholarships. I redshirted. I was the 4th string quarterback my second year there. 4th string quarterback. To 2 years later, getting graded out for an NFL pick. So there's a bunch of different ways to get there. There really is. And I know that's kind of a cliche, but the reality is just like college recruiters get paid to recruit, like a position coach in college, don't get it twisted. A position coach in college is a recruiter. Their primary focus is recruiting. The coordinators are going to call the plays. The coordinators are going to dial up the schemes. The head coach will deal with the game management. If you are a position coach in college, your number one job is to recruit, at least at good programs. Now, you might like running your indie drill or your meeting, but the most important thing they do is recruit. And so if you're good in high school, there should be someone that's going to find you. Now, it doesn't happen every single time. No, absolutely not. The community football sector is a really important sector. Whether a guy develops late, doesn't get a chance, is stuck in a program that doesn't kind of take advantage of his strengths, it's a strong, good path to take. Whether you got grade issues, academic issues, life issues, but at some point, the league is going to find you. I know guys, I played with Joe Horn, guy went to community college only. Played with a bunch of guys who were D2, D3 guys. They will find you if you're good. That's the thing about it. Now, you might have to jump off the screen a little bit more if you play at a lower level, but you're going to get an opportunity. And then the only thing that matters, that's the thing that I think is hard to understand unless you're in the building, is that it doesn't matter what your grade is. They don't care how many stars you have. They don't care what pick you got. They don't. Nobody does. You're taking someone's job. You're taking someone's livelihood. And then you have to hold that for as long as you possibly can. That's the thing that I think when you look at that attitude, that mindset, what it takes, you know, that's why it's fun for me to watch like The Last Dance and get a little glimpse of Jordan and those Bulls mindset. Like, it's hard for me, you know, not to put me in the same category as any of those dudes on a whole different level. But there is an element of professional sports that's hard to translate to any other level because you're taking someone's job. And this isn't a job down the street at the local convenience store. This is a job that can change your life, that can change your family's trajectory, that can literally be a trampoline for what you want to do for the rest of your life. And so it doesn't start and stop just making the team. I think a lot of guys all of a sudden are like, hey, I'm in the league. You know, like that type of thing, or like, I got drafted, that's awesome. Like, that's the beginning. Like, that's the front door. Like, yes, you got to get invited to the party, but then, you know, you got to bring something to the party. You got to add value immediately, and then you got to add value every single year, every single day. And that's why it filters you out, man. That was one of my favorite things about it. It's competitive, it's cutthroat, and there's rewards, and it's fun, and it's at the highest level. Like, what's not to love? All right. I feel like I went off on a tangent. I appreciate y'all hanging out. 176. Obviously, the support for the channel is a lot of fun for me. Wesley Brown, how much do you read daily? Oh, I just took the books off the thing. I was going to do another book review, actually. I'm probably going to do the Bill Walsh book next. I don't read, honestly, I don't read as much as I used to before quarantine, just because it's crazy over here. There is no downtime. When you want a downtime, you just want to like take a deep breath. So my reading has actually gone dumpster, but still get to it every once in a while. It's just not enough, not as much as I would like. All right, y'all. I think that's about a wrap for me. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. It was fun for me to do it. Other than that, I will see you next time. This week, we're going to look for Wednesday. Going to do X and O video, spacing. Please check that out. If you didn't check out the video today for Joe Burrow 2018, I had a lot of fun doing that. I'm going to put that will be the Patreon video I just need to finish and put out this week. Cam James, back at it. Appreciate it, man. Look at that. Strong with the blue. Turquoise, actually. Evan Grover in the house. Super chat. What do you got? Who was the best QB that was a lower end athlete? Ooh. That's the funny thing about it. Like, even the guys that get like slept on, they're amazing athletes. I'm trying to think of guys that I played with. Like, probably the guy that I played with that jumps to mind immediately is a guy named Brad Johnson. He won a Super Bowl for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not like the most dynamic athlete if you looked at him on the NFL field. I want to say he like might have played basketball at Florida State. Probably the best dart player I ever seen. Smoked me in pool. Super coordinated. You know, I think his kid's really good at football right now. Like, I mean, he didn't look dynamic on an NFL field because those dudes are freaks. But like, just to get an opportunity in a camp, you have to be a legitimate freak athlete, and then to stick around and have a career. I mean, it's the highest of the highs. But like, there isn't really a guy that I was like, you know, he's a terrible athlete that plays quarterback in the NFL. Like, yes, they're not as dynamic as guys who play on the perimeter, but they're probably more coordinated. You know what I mean by that is the ability, you know, you're always playing catch, you got your hand-eye coordination, all those type of things, and it's just it's a different skill set. Like, I never thought that I was the most dynamic athlete by any means ever on the NFL field, but I did feel like I had some pretty good coordination compared to some guys that looked like they were trying to catch with 2 wooden spoons, or guys that, you know, couldn't turn their hips when they were running, but ran a 4.3. You know, there's just different types of explosiveness, different types of athleticism. But I think quarterback is a weird blend of like, you got to have some pretty good coordination to be able to spin it and be on time and rhythm and things like that. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, see, Brad Johnson, he's a hit. Love Brad. All right, that's a wrap for me. That's an hour. I appreciate the support. Again, Spacing Wednesday, Burrow today. I'm thinking, let me know how you feel about this. Trevor Lawrence, Friday. Maybe? I mean, 2021, you know, we got to get after Coach Vass. It's one of those times that I think it might be fun to do start projecting for what next year looks like. I'm having so much fun with the college football stuff. I don't want to stop with it. So that's my mindset. Again, thank you for checking out, hanging out tonight. Hopefully you all had a good time. If you like this live stream, hit you back next week, Monday. We're going to make this thing on the regular. Other than that, thank you again for the support. I appreciate it. Exit with your favorite emoji. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.